something else making waves on the campaign trail tonight. A leading conservative strategist taking aim at his own party. Kory Teneycke was Stephen Harper's campaign spokesperson in the 2015 election campaign and just ran Doug Ford's successful provincial campaign. He's also a regular commentator for us here at CTV News. Here's what he said today on the Curse of Politics podcast. Take a listen.
We talk sometimes about campaign malpractice. Blowing a 25-point lead and being like 10 points down is campaign malpractice at the highest level. It's going to be about how we talk to Laura Stone. Like, you know, how many questions did he get on Laura Stone? Like, and look, you know, gross. Like, it was gross. And he is losing women and losing women massively.
All right, Kory is with me live in studio. A few less F-bombs in this conversation. Thanks for making the time. I appreciate it, as always.
Well, it is the curse of politics.
Yes, exactly. This was just plain old power play.
Right,
no F-bombs necessary.
We'll keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. So the headline out of this, and it certainly generated a ton of reaction throughout the day. I can't tell you how many people sent me some of what you said, is certainly the idea that you say this is campaign malpractice at the highest level. Why are you saying that?
Well, because we blew a 25-point lead. That's why. You know, I know it's uncomfortable for people to hear that said out loud, but like it's in every poll aggregator, the numbers are the numbers. And saying that you don't believe in polls, and if you're managing a campaign, it's delusional. And I don't believe that the Conservatives don't believe in polls. Like I just don't believe that that's true. I think that the polls are the polls. There's a consensus in what those show right now, and you got to take a look at that information as a campaign manager and try to figure out a path to get people who were supporting you a few short months ago back, voting for you when election day comes a couple of short weeks from now. And if you look at who the Conservatives have lost, there are a couple of core constituencies there that typically vote Conservative. The biggest one demographically would be 55-plus voters. So it's a very important cohort. They tend to come out at a higher rate than younger voters. And the Conservatives, when they win elections, they tend to do extremely well with those voters. But they're losing not only 55-plus women, which is a little harder to get, they're massively losing them. They're massively losing them, and largely around the issue of Donald Trump. And they're also losing 55-plus men. Like, this is, very problematic for them. The gender gap is huge right now in this election campaign. And, you've got to wonder what the Conservatives are thinking, having their leader attacking a female reporter in a way that I described as being gross. I think it was like really unhelpful to them. That clip has gone viral. It's making its way around the internet, and I think it's turning women off even more from this campaign. So, when I talk about campaign malpractice, blowing a lead that big, and your response being, I don't believe in the polls, I don't know. I think it's kind of weak sauce.
There are some people inside that campaign who would, to play devil's advocate, say, look, like, this was out of our hands. Like, Trump coming in, the degree to which that, combined with Justin Trudeau, resulted in this complete realignment in public opinion polling. Like, that's stuff that was out of our control. Is that true at all in your view? Or what could they have done to, stop the bleeding, if anything?
It was clear in public opinion polling that Trump was becoming the biggest issue in the land in December, way back in December. And if you look at, what we did with the Ford campaign, for instance, that's when we pivoted our campaign. We were running a campaign on affordability and carbon taxes, and a lot of the same things that Poilievre was in 2024. But when you see the public opinion shift that radically on an issue, you have to respond to that. You have to respond. They've reluctantly partially pivoted the campaign, after the first week, I think in response to criticism from myself and other people. But, it's been a very incomplete pivot. And I think it's missing one of the key elements. For a lot of the voters that have moved, they've mostly moved on the Trump issue. And one of the things that is clearly holding them back with Poilievre is all the Trumpy stuff. He's looking and sounding a lot like Trump. So, arguing with a reporter about the size of the crowd at a rally. A campaign slogan that's Canada first. Well, Trump's was America first, right? Like, so I think there's a disconnect there. I think there's some unforced errors that have been made. And look, the good news is there's 2 weeks left. The debates are left. There's a chance for the Conservatives to try to put something together. You know, I hate to have to say it, but it's not going well right now.
Well, let me ask you about the next few weeks, because you have worked on a bunch of federal campaigns. You ran Doug Ford's campaign on a number of occasions, including the most recent. Like, you know, what has to happen in the next 2 weeks? Because the gap has been eviscerated, but it's still competitive.
Well, I think they need to, you know, bring some of those voters back who have left them in the last few months, and they need to have the NDP show some life. And I think these things are connected. So, you know, the fact that NDP voters are leaving in droves and Bloc voters are leaving in droves to support Mark Carney, like a central banker, like this is not the kind of guy that you would expect NDP voters to be aligned with. But they're doing it because they're petrified of a Poilievre government. And I think they got to tone down the scary. I think they've got to have a tone that is more accessible to female voters, because I think he's been turning them off. I think some of the rally stuff is very reminiscent of Trump. I think I would tone that down and try to focus on those voters that you need to bring back to your ballot, and you want to focus on also de-risking your candidacy a bit for those NDP voters so that they'll be happy to go home and vote for the NDP. It's very difficult to win on the vote splits that we're seeing right now with the NDP so low.
Do you think it's possible?
You know, I guess anything is possible, Vashi. Like, you know, we've seen campaigns that turn in a couple weeks' time, and the debates next week are a big inflection point potentially. So, you know, I don't think all hope is lost. You know, the election will count, and there is clearly enthusiasm within the Conservative base for his candidacy, so that will bode well, I think, for their voter turnout. But, you know, this campaign is going to be won and lost by those shoulder voters, not by the hardcore activists.
So I was having deja vu, I was telling you earlier, because I remember in 2019, after Andrew Scheer lost, you were very vocal about his leadership and what you thought had to happen to the campaign. That was after the campaign had come to an end, though. And I remember a lot of Conservatives got mad at that time for me putting you on and interviewing you about that. I imagine they're going to have a similar reaction. I should say we reached out to the campaign for a statement because we only found out late in the day that you were able to talk to us. We haven't received it yet. When we do, we will. But what do you say to the party who kind of thinks that you're being disloyal, or whatever they want to call it, to say this in the middle of a campaign?
Well, I'm a commentator. Yes, I'm a Conservative. I vote Conservative. I'll be voting for Poilievre. You know, but you know, my job is to give commentary and analysis on the election campaign. I'm not running the campaign. I'm giving commentary and analysis of it. And you know, not everyone's going to like what I have to say, but it's like the Big Lebowski says, "Hey, man, it's just your opinion."
Well, thank you for sharing your opinion. As always, you're going to be with me on the set, along with Scott and Kathleen, next week in Montreal for the debates, and of course on Question Period this Sunday. Thanks, Kory.
Great.
I appreciate it.